Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A temporary housing facility for veterans will close in the Green Bay area. It's the result of funding cuts in the state budget, expected now to put even bigger strain on those providing similar services.
The Veterans Housing and Recovery Center set to close by the end of September. Today, those behind another veterans housing project in our area hoping to fill some of that new coming need, even though there is a waiting list for those seeking to get in. Our Jason Zimmerman has details about construction timelines as this project prepares to break ground. He is live in Green Bay. Jason?
Chris, this will be the area's first ever tiny housing village for veterans. Construction is expected to get underway later this summer on the piece of property you see right behind me here on St. Anthony Drive. Those backing it say there's never been such a critical need in the community. When it's done, the Tiny Homes Housing Project for veterans, shown in this rendering, will have 21 homes, housing up to 25 veterans in a community-like atmosphere. Right now, the last of the environmental studies on the land just about to wrap up.
I am hoping that we'll have the deed transferred this week from the county, and then we have a couple little hoops to jump through at the city yet, but I'm sure we can get that all locked up. I'm hoping to get infrastructure and driveway in there in late summer, and then start getting the community center and some of the tiny homes up early fall.
All of this as two other veterans housing facilities in the state, one in the Green Bay area and another in Chippewa Falls, prepare to close after request by Governor Evers for $1.9 million to fund the Veterans Housing and Recovery Program, which was stripped from the final passage of the state budget.
The program has made a tremendous difference in lots of veterans' lives over the years, and when we were hoping we would get this money, and when the legislature, the Joint Finance Committee, voted not to give us that money, it was a pretty tough day.
Gail Knorr used to work at the Green Bay area facility counseling veterans.
I was devastated. I mean, that is a very much needed facility, and it's going to very much hurt our population and the veterans.
Starting next week, applications for the two closing facilities will stop being reviewed, and efforts to relocate veterans there are now underway.
I spoke to a couple veterans that are living there that we've been in communication with. There's a couple of the guys that we hoped once they graduated from that program would come into the tiny homes. So like I said, they're very confused and a little bit stressed out, not knowing what the next steps will be.
The hope is to have about half of those tiny houses built by next year, with the rest ready to house veterans by 2027. Reporting live in Green Bay, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.
Jason,